Browns fans, if you want Cleveland to go out and put a lot of money down in free agency, then go ahead and like this video because free agency and the draft are pretty fun times in the NFL world because it's just full of optimism. So if you want to see the GM Andrew Berry put his money where his mouth is and put a bunch of cheddar down, then go ahead and like this video. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. Today we're going to look at some free agent targets for Cleveland. NFL free agency is not until March, but you know it's January. And if you're not in the playoffs, then you get to look ahead to next season. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to check out who I think the Browns should pursue, what their needs are, and all that stuff. So let's check out some notes here for the Brownies going into free agency. I've identified their three biggest needs. And surprise, surprise, I have wide receiver number 1, defensive tackle number 2, and linebacker at number 3. Now, Cleveland, they've got about $28 million roughly in cap space, so it's a good amount of money they get to play with. It's not a ton. It puts them in the top half of the NFL, but it's not like they're top 10, though, okay? Now, a couple names I got at the bottom of the screen. Jarvis Landry is set to make just over $16.5 million next season. Austin Hooper, just over 13, and Case Keenum, just under 8. Those are three big contracts I have identified that what you saw last year versus what they're getting paid next year, they don't line up very well. You can pay Myles Garrett tons of money because he deserves tons of money. But Landry I worry about. Love to see him return, but I don't think it's worth $16.5 million. Austin Hooper, absolutely not worth $13.2 million, but you're kind of stuck with him for another year. A lot of dead cap if you were to cut him. And then Case Keenum, one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks, and one of the most underused backup quarterbacks last season when you really needed one, and he's at $8 million just about. So, with that all being said, what do you think the biggest need is for the Cleveland Browns this offseason? A wide receiver is kind of the easy answer, so no problem if you want to put that down. If you want to think outside the box, you can ride with me a little bit that D-tackle spot and linebacker because there's just no real household concrete names at either of those two positions. This is the pinned comment on today's show, so if a YouTube ad break comes on by, use that as a chance to get your votes in down below. I think it's wide receiver, and I've talked about this before. If you've watched the show before, we've done lots of looks at draft targets and whatnot at the wide receiver position. But let's look at the wide receiver pool in free agency. First, here's the depth chart for Cleveland. It is not a depth chart that brings you much confidence going into next season. Higgins probably not going to return. Landry, you just saw, has that huge cap hit. I worry if he'll be a cap casualty. And if you lose those two guys, I'm not very confident in DPJ being a wide receiver 1. I like DPJ. I want to see him work out. I think he's been such a great player when he gets the ball, but he's a bit of a, inconsistent and jumps off the page once in a while. So here are the top wide receiver free agents this upcoming offseason. Leading by Davante Adams, the biggest name out there. Everyone's chasing him, unsure what his future is. Then you got Chris Godwin and Allen Robinson and Mike Williams. I think that's your kind of 1 for Adams and then 1B for those three guys. And then Christian Kirk, I think he sneaks into the top 5 as well. Here's the second tier. These are going to be a much deeper drop-off in terms of what you'll have to pay them. Those other guys, you're looking at 3 to 4 year contracts where they're going to want $15 to $20 million. These guys, 3-year contracts where you pay them $8 to $13 million ish. And there's some good names right there. And they got some good numbers. And Michael Gallup's a name. He's coming off a torn ACL. But with a lot higher velocity of targets, I think he can do pretty well. He's been sitting behind Cooper and Lamb in Dallas. Same for Wilson. Russell Gage, once Calvin Ridley stepped away this year, he was pretty awesome. So 5 names here, kind of the second tier. But which of those 10 names that I put in front of you guys would you like the Browns to go ahead and sign? Let me know what you're thinking. I'm going to give you my take in just a moment, but let me know down below in the comments section. For me, it's pretty simple. You back the truck up, beep, 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 and you put a boatload of cash at the feet of Chris Godwin. Davante Adams, he most likely is going to want to go wherever Aaron Rodgers goes. So if Rodgers stays in Green Bay, then the Packers will pay Adams. If Rodgers gets traded somewhere, I bet Adams wants to go to whatever team he just got traded to. Chris Godwin, meanwhile, he's coming off a torn ACL, so maybe you can get him for $1 million less. But if you have him on your fantasy team, or if you ever had him, you know what a great player is. If you just watch the Bucs play on red zone at any given point, he is such a dynamic and just flat-out fun player to watch. Had his season cut short this year, but was still getting over 1,000 yards and 5 TDs when he was out there. And here's his career. 5 seasons so far coming out of Penn State. And look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. Chris Godwin has been one of the league's best wide receivers, and he's been doing it as a kind of wide receiver too, right? He's been stuck behind Mike Evans at times. The two of them kind of flip-flop and go one, in front of one, in front of the other. But I think Chris Godwin, when he's a clear-cut wide receiver one and with Baker Mayfield, that'd be a lot of fun to watch. You know what's also a lot of fun? Making money. So don't lose money. Ride with me. Go to BetUS. That's our proud sportsbook partner. They give you a 125% deposit bonus for going to chatsports.com/bet. Using that promo code Browns125. Let's say you want to bet on the divisional round this weekend. Got the odds right here. Got the over-unders. Personally, I like San Francisco +6. That's a lot of points for a Green Bay team we know can actually low-key struggle in the playoffs and have been underwhelming. I also like the Bills +2. I'll take the points because I think Buffalo's just going to flat out win. But make all your picks over at BetUS. If you want to make some money, you can do it all year long. Say you want to bet in the Cavs. Doesn't matter. They've got every single thing. They got Polish women's basketball, I've even heard. All right, moving on. Let's get to the other side of the show here. Free agent defensive tackles. So went through the wide receiver rooms. Now let's look at the DTs and then we'll get to the linebackers. First, here's the depth chart on that front line for the Browns. And only one name returning that's worthwhile, and that's Myles Garrett. I don't expect Malik Jackson to return. After what Malik McDowell did the other day, he's not going near a school, and he's not going near a First Energy Stadium. And then now you have Jadeveon Clowney, which I would like to see return, but hard to say because apparently he doesn't like the cold. And there's a lot of things we can do to try and persuade Clowney to come back, but unless we all want to pollute a lot more, we're not going to make it that much warmer. And Producer Jack doesn't want to see that happen, and neither do I. So, with that all being said, before we look at the entire breakdown of the free agent list, if you guys are looking for off-season news and rumors surrounding your Cleveland Browns, then this is your one-stop shop because we're putting content out pretty much almost 7 days a week here. Hit that big red button. Subscribe if you're looking for a place to keep you up to date on the Browns throughout the entire off-season. Join the channel. Hit that big red button. If you've already subscribed, keep watching for later. We got some shout-outs coming. Top defensive tackle free agents, though. All household names. Austin Johnson with the Giants. How do you not know him, right? Well, a couple of these guys sure aren't the biggest names, but they've had some pretty good numbers. Pair of guys in Cincinnati this year. I'm guessing the Bengals will only be able to pay one of them. So why not go up and pick up a guy that gets 2 revenge games against his old team that didn't want to shell out the bucks for him? Also, like Austin Johnson, like I mentioned at the top of the show, top of this segment here, he was kind of quietly stuck in a Giants team that was super underwhelming, but the defense itself wasn't that bad. But yeah, I know. Who are any of those guys? And I get it. Unfortunately, I think you've got Aaron Donald. But then after that, you've got a deep drop-off. And that's just the direction the NFL is going right now. Vita Vea, Aaron Donald, Akeem Hicks. But the big, you put the, refrigerator, put the big guy in the middle of your defensive line. That era of football, I wouldn't say it's going away, but the way that everyone's adapting to speed over strength, it has kind of created a bit of a dying breed. But I want to get this question out to you guys here. Who is your favorite Browns player of all time? All time. Personally, my favorite player is Josh Cribbs, okay, because I love special teams. I think that special teams unit in general is just underrated, and anytime someone can bring a kickoff back to the house, it is the best feeling in the world because the offense gets to stand up, and we sit back down, and we don't have to do any work, and we just got 7 points. Let me know who your favorite is in the comment section below. I'll be looking and going back and forth with you guys. On to the linebackers now. Here are the top linebackers / edge, sort of, because it's a hybrid position, free agents out there. The biggest one I'm looking at is Clowney, Jadeveon Clowney. Hopefully he can be persuaded to come back to Cleveland. Had a good year last year to earn himself a spot to bargain to go somewhere elsewhere. Olukun, he is a kind of under-the-radar late draft pick out of Yale from Atlanta who is quietly a very good player. You look at these teams here, only one of those 5 teams made the playoffs. So the rest of them kind of got forgotten, but still a great season. Hasson Reddick, he had a great year out in Carolina, 11 sacks. Azees Al-Shaair, he's more of your typical middle linebacker that the Browns really haven't had a true middle linebacker in quite some time. So I'd like to see one of these faces pair up with JOK and have some stability at the linebacker spot, because outside of JOK this year, there really was none. You had some players step up and, make plays and have a good stretch of the season, but no one you could count on to be like, this is going to be a run stopper. They're going to take care and command the defense and take care of the middle of the field. The name I'm honing in on, though, is Clowney. The last 4 years for Clowney have not been the first overall pick he once was. Last year in Houston, had a good season, 9 sacks. The Texans opted to trade him, go a different direction. He stunk in Seattle. They got rid of him. He was even worse with Tennessee. And this year, gets his career kind of back on track a little bit. Paired with Myles Garrett, the two of them, I think, could make a great defensive end duo. And I'd love to see him stay in Cleveland. I really would. I hope that the weather isn't going to be that big of a factor. I've kind of read that on some Browns deep dark web Twitter threads and Facebook posts and whatnot. But hopefully, Clowney, if you're watching, how about you stick around the lake and keep putting up big sack numbers for the Brownies? Let's ask this question to you guys, though. Should the Browns re-sign Clowney? It's a democracy here at Chat Sports, and I love going back and forth with you guys in the comments. That's what makes our channel and brand so unique. Drop a Y for yes or an N for no. If you've noticed in the last couple of years, football in general, though, has always been a copycat league and going in different trends and directions, right? Right now you're getting the trend of young offensive-minded head coaches and slot wide receivers versus the big go up and get on the outside kind of wide receiver. The linebacker position is becoming a bit of a dying breed, and that's a bit of an overreaction, but you're just not seeing the linebacker spot be well respected as it once was in the draft in terms of where they're getting picked. You're not seeing tons of linebackers go very early, and you're not seeing tons of linebackers get paid a lot of money in free agency either. So just keep that in mind during the offseason. Barry may look at that and go, yeah, we can kind of put bottom-ish feeders out there, and the drop-off from what we pay top dollar isn't big enough of a gap to want to spend that money. I'd rather allocate it elsewhere. All right, to wrap up the show, I just want to give some shout-outs here. I got to notice a couple of you guys, frequent commenters, some new commenters. So we're in the CC, we're in the Commenters Club. Charles Walker, Robert Janko, Jason West, Mason Michael, Dion Owens. Appreciate all of you guys for subscribing and for commenting. And if you haven't already, hit that big red button. This is the cliche YouTube part of my ad read here where I ask you to join the channel. And if you're looking for news and rumors all off-season long, well, you found the right place for it. Hit that big red button, subscribe, and we'll catch you later here on the Cleveland Browns Report.